How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Whether it's a movie night or just midday, Skinny Pop is a salty snack that keeps on giving. Made with just 3 simple ingredients for an irresistibly delicious taste and a large serving size that lasts. Deliciously popped, perfectly salted. Skinny Pop, popular for a reason. Shop Skinny Pop now.
Welcome to Supernatural Circumstances, the podcast that takes you down the rabbit hole into the fascinating world of the strange, the paranormal, and the unknown. I'm Morgan Knudsen. Come along with me on this week's adventure. Guys, pack your bags. We are going to Egypt. I know that everybody out there has the same questions, if not more than I do, about what the heck has been going on with the pyramids, right? This is unbelievable. Now, if you guys have not heard about what's going on in Egypt, because strangely enough, as if this couldn't get weirder, it's been kept out of the news quite a bit. I have not heard much about this in the legacy media. Maybe you guys have heard different. Definitely hasn't been kicking around in Canada. But we're going to be talking today about the Khafre Project, which is a story that has really electrified the world of archaeology and sent shockwaves throughout the community, people interested in Egyptology and scientists and things like that. So picture this. Scientists from Italy and Scotland, armed with cutting-edge synthetic aperture radar, have uncovered not just chambers, but an entire hidden city sprawling beneath Egypt's iconic pyramids. And just recently, they found another one. So what in the heck is going on here? These structures are unbelievable. Their scans are revealing what looks like spiraling shafts plunging over 2,000 feet deep. Now take a minute to think about that. 2,000 feet deep. Geometric corridors, cube-shaped vaults, all interconnected in this subterranean labyrinth that seem to be connected to one another. This, you guys, could rewrite everything that we know, not only about Egypt, but about our history. Okay, this is some serious stuff. So what is this exactly? Does this mean that the pyramids worked differently than what we think? What is this exactly? I am so fascinated by what's going on here. And today we have got one of my favorite people to have on the show, Mike Ricksecker, who actually has been on the ground in Egypt. He does tours over there and whatnot. You guys probably know him from shows like The Unexplained with William Shatner and Ancient Aliens. He's always called on as an extremely knowledgeable expert, which is why he's one of my go-to people for this. He has been in-depth researching this, talking to the top scientists, boots on the ground there. He's our guy. So I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get some answers. If there are any, let's get this party started.
Acura dares to drive beyond standard. A torque vectoring super handling all-wheel drive system, standard in the Acura RDX. Panoramic moonroof and premium 3-row seating, standard in the Acura MDX. Sound that surrounds you, an 18-speaker Bang & Olufsen premium sound system comes standard in the all-electric ZDX, the Acura RDX, ZDX, and MDX, where precision meets craftsmanship. Visit Acura.com to learn more.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
The Abercrombie Kids Summer Sale is in full swing, with up to 50% off select styles for the season. Summer plans, vacation, and camp days are all covered with new dresses, shorts, tees, and swim. Abercrombie Kids has the summer staples they need and the looks that they want to wear. Shop in-store, online, or in the app. Offer applies to select styles as indicated. Discount applied at checkout online.
Well, Mike, I am so grateful that you were able to take the time today to be here and to talk about this. So thank you so much, and welcome to Supernatural Circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me back, Morgan. We always have wonderful conversations, so definitely very happy to be returning here.
It's always so much fun, and I couldn't think of anybody better to have on to talk about this subject, because you've been on the ground in Egypt. You've been talking to the best of the best that have been involved in this project, which we'll talk about in a second. But I wanted to let the audience get to know you and your relationship with Egypt a little bit, because you wrote this amazing book called Portals to the Stars, which is absolutely fantastic. And you've identified over the years just hot spots where some really strange things have been going on. So what was your initial interest in Egypt to begin with, apart from all the crazy that's been going on over the last little while?
Yeah, I've always had an interest in Egypt. Grew up in the 80s, so Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah.
That was definitely a part of it. Who doesn't want to be Indiana Jones, right? I just don't want Nazis chasing after me.
I always had a bit of a bias about the snake pit. I was like, bring me the snake pit.
Yeah, I could see that with you. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, his fear of snakes. Aside from that, the early 1990s, there was a fantastic documentary that came out called Mystery of the Sphinx. It's hosted by Charlton Heston and featured the work of John Anthony West and Robert Schoch. John Anthony West, the Egyptologist, and Robert Schoch, the geologist, in which they basically were redating the Sphinx to be far, far older than previously believed. And it was, fascinating research that they had done there. And I was just enthralled by that. Well, less than a year later, the film Stargate came out, which, of course, sci-fi fiction, but, the whole idea of, did extraterrestrials have something to do with ancient Egypt? That, kind of shook my mind as well. So it's kind of like those things back to back like that really invigorated me over the years to, continue down that path of research.
I loved Stargate when it came out. It was actually my dad, who has since passed away, but it was his favorite film. And I think one of the reasons why was because it really did bring up a lot of questions, which I think at that time we were kind of thinking like, oh, that would be interesting and that would be nice.
Yeah.
And now fast forward to today, and we've got this insane discovery underneath the pyramids, and this unbelievable. And what's blowing my mind about this is not only the discovery, but the lack of attention to the discovery, which I want to talk about in a little bit. But can you tell everybody what has been going on? What have they discovered under there? Because I know people are probably, they're turning on their computers and the internet, and they're seeing bits and pieces, but maybe not putting it all together. So what is going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a couple days ago, there were more news articles coming out that not only did they find the chambers under the pyramid of Khafre, but now the third pyramid, the pyramid of Menkaure. So yeah, there's this huge underground network under the Giza Plateau, which, is not, honestly, it's not surprising for those of us that have been following along for decades. There's all kinds of, pits and shafts and tunnels and things like this that just pockmark the entire Giza Plateau. And so I think what has really shook people is the size and scope of these things. And so like when the reports initially came out, was it back in March? You had people like Zahi Hawass immediately, screaming, "Oh, it's fake!" And it's like, did you even really look at it? Because these are, real scientists with real scans using real satellite technology, and they had a real press conference about this. And I think part of it is, for one, usually to do, if you want to go and do some sort of exploration or dig on the Giza Plateau, there's all kinds of permits and things that you need to do and permissions you need to get. And so, they were kind of up in arms about that. Well, this was, a satellite out in space. You have no jurisdiction over that. And so, they can kind of do what they want with that. So that was a little upsetting to them because, they're, of course, not getting any credit and all that sort of thing.
Right.
But also the scope of this. This wasn't just like, oh, we found another shaft like the Osiris shaft, which we've known about since the 1930s. And actually, this scan did pick up on the Osiris shaft, and perfectly there it is as an example. But the size and scope of it, I think, is really, really spooked some people. And now understanding the technology and how it works, some of these guys went out there and I can't remember exactly the guy's name, but I think he was in a university there in Colorado. He's supposed to be a ground penetrating radar expert, and kind of spouting off about how, well, ground penetrating radar can't go that deep. It's like, well, it's not GPR. It's not ground penetrating radar. This is an actual, it's a different type of technology, again, using satellites. And what it's doing is it's doing a surface scan. And through this surface scan, it is measuring the micro vibrations that voids within the Earth create and rise up through the ground. And through those micro vibrations, you can detect how big that void is. So yeah, and it can go kilometers deep with this technology. It's wild.
It's incredible. And what blew my mind when I first saw the scans come up was like what you were saying, the scope of the size of this. And I wonder if you can give people an idea as to how deep this goes, because even for us to accomplish this today would be damn hard.
It would be, because you're talking about solid limestone, the Giza Plateau. And I've had people come in and question about, well, the sands of the plateau. And it's like, well, yeah, the sands blow in from the desert, but the plateau itself is solid limestone. This is sedimentary rock from an ancient ocean, millions of years ago. In fact, when you walk up to the pyramids, like within feet of the pyramids, it's pretty wild. There are fossils, like remains of sea lions and things like this, right there in the limestone, like within 10, 20 feet of the Great Pyramid. It's like, wow, okay. So this is something that they would have had to have dug into and carved out. And you're talking up to 2 kilometers within the plateau. I mean, that's huge. The undertaking for that is massive.
I can't even get my mind around that. Like you think of construction digs and things like that we see nowadays. You're standing over some of these great foundation holes and you're looking down and you're going, that seems never ending. That they don't have anything in comparison to what we're talking about here, which is so strange. And I think you really brought up a great point with the technology, just to sort of ram this home for people, because there's been a lot of stuff on the internet saying, well, this can't happen, but this is a very separate kind of radar. This is not anything that people are running along the ground. This is coming from satellites that is actually bringing these images forward. So this is brand new and quite frankly beyond the scope of most people's understanding, including myself. It's pretty advanced, but like this is really phenomenal, and it's not the first time that this technology has been used either. So it's not like it's just sort of come out of nowhere, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, this is a technology that has been in use in a variety of fields, not just looking for ancient sites. And the one with Hawara, the Egyptian labyrinth that came out, the company that scanned that, Merlin Burroughs, they do scans for all different types of industries. It's not just looking for ancient sites. So, but yeah, with this particular technology, the SAR technology, like one of the places, because this is primarily an Italian team, there's a Scottish element in there because the one, and he's an Italian scientist, but he went to a university there in Scotland. They tested this out beforehand on I can't remember the name of the facility offhand, but it's a laboratory that's a kilometer and a half underground in Italy, and the scans are pretty spot on to a facility that is known. They're deep underground in Italy.
Jeez, it's remarkable. So I guess now it begs the question, what the heck is it? I know there's been talks about this being some sort of underground city. There was comparisons to Egypt's underworld, talking about the underworld. What the heck is this? I mean, you've talked to some of the top scientists that have been on the ground in this. What do they think this is?
Yeah, what's kind of interesting is the guy who broke the news, Trevor Grassi. He's affiliated. He doesn't work directly for the team, but he's been in communication with them and affiliated with them for a couple of years now. And he's essentially the one that broke the news across the internet. Right. And he came on my Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour a couple of years ago, so which was kind of cool. So I had already known him. He visited Tanis with us, and we've kept in touch ever since. I've had him on my podcast, so I definitely recommend people to go check that out, because we had that within I think like a week of when the news first broke, and so fascinating details that he had for us during that interview. But yeah, that's the big question. What exactly is it? Because people are saying, like the hulls of a Minty.
Yeah.
Could this be that? And well, it's possible. I mean, honestly, we're not going to know until we go down there.
For sure.
And of course, that begs the question, how do we get in there? Where is there possibly an entrance to get into this thing? And maybe, and you never know. Some of these, the Egyptian Antiquities Authority, they might already know of an entrance to get in there, or maybe some areas of it. It's possible, because they are the ones that hold the keys to pretty much everything. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting thinking the halls of Amenti, the Egyptian underworld, where basically you were your guide was Anubis.
Right.
People are always afraid of Anubis, like he's god of the dead or whatever. It's like, no, he's a psychopomp. He's the guide to take you through the underworld on your journey. He's just kind of doing his job, poor Anubis. And,
getting a bad rap.
Yeah, he kind of does. But and there's like a series of tests and things like this that you go through your journey throughout the halls, and then you end up in front of the goddess Mot, who is she's the one with the scales, to basically judge you. So yeah, there's a whole backstory to this. And is it that? Maybe. Is it a underground city? Maybe. Is it remnants of the Atlantean culture? Maybe. When a couple of weeks ago, when the scans from Hawara, the Egyptian labyrinth, came out, Louis de Cordier is the one that broke that, because he did scans back there in 2008, and he's been working with Merlin Burroughs, who did these more recent scans, and the structures that were coming up under there. And this is huge. We're talking the entire area. And this was already a pretty massive area. Like even back in 1888, Sir Flinders Petrie found this huge stone paved area that was 304 meters by 244 meters. I mean, meters, not feet. Meters.
What the heck?
Absolutely huge. And he didn't excavate that out. He just, he found it. It's like, okay, there it is, and went on to investigate other places. 120 years later, here's Louis de Cordier thinking, I think there's more under there, and did some initial scans with now some older technology, and discovered, yeah, there are what look like pillar-type structures under this. Now, these more recent scans are showing huge, vast areas like 40, 120 meters underground. This one is like this circular domed structure that, his suggestion there is this the gold circle, this round chamber that you find references to it in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, where this was where the ancient priests and scientists were the same thing back then, that were trying to calculate out when the next great cataclysm were, because there was not just one, like great flood or whatever. There were many cataclysms over thousands and thousands of years that they were trying to predict when the next one was going to be. And all of this research and mathematical equations and all this was supposed to be in this chamber. So, is that what's under there? maybe. We don't know.
Oh, it puts a million questions in your mind as to what this might be used for. But I think what blows my mind is the fact that they went so deep underground. That to me is really significant as well. Just the fact that you've got this incredible city that they've built within the pyramids, and they've got this, but something made them do this, and that to me is significant as well. Like, do you have any thoughts or theories on that?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the pyramid, so there's the idea of the Giza power plant theory that was postulated by Christopher Dunn. And I think there's, a lot of credence to it. And in fact, some modern science about 8 years ago showed that, in fact, the Great Pyramid of Giza is drawing power up out of the ground and storing it within its chambers. And then China, I think it was last year, was showing that they were, through some different radar scans, that there were plasma bubbles that were forming over the Great Pyramid. So it is drawing power and doing different things. And when you go inside the Great Pyramid, I mean, you can see this is the machine. There's things going on in there that just, for one, they never found a body in there and all this. So, but different elements, like in the Queen's Chamber, there's this whole area there. It's in a little corbelled niche that traditional archaeology tries to say, oh yeah, there was a stone idol or a statue or something like that was in there. Of course, that was never found in there. It was completely bare and empty. But when you look at this corbelled niche, which is about 15 feet tall, there's a tunnel, probably about 3 by 3, that goes straight back about 90 meters. And then, which doesn't make any sense for, holding a statue there. And then the back side of the wall of this thing, as it goes up 15 feet, it's burned, it's charred, the stone is melted. So it was something much more significant. So, okay, if we're going with the idea that maybe a power plant, at least some sort of machine, right? And that's just the Great Pyramid. Well, what's interesting about the pyramids, and because, we see them in their decayed state right now, we don't ever really think about it. So the Great Pyramid of Giza was encased in white limestone. Most of that is gone now, is repurposed for other buildings throughout the city. There's a few blocks still left on the ground. The second pyramid, which is actually at the highest point on the plateau, so it looks like people confuse it with the Great Pyramid. People are familiar with the cap of limestone that's still on the top of there, and it actually sits up higher on the plateau. So that was half granite, half limestone. So the bottom of that was limestone, and then the second half of the top was, the bottom was the granite, and then the top part was the white limestone. So it's a half and half. And then the third one, Menkaure, was completely granite. So these three pyramids all had a relationship to each other. So rather than separate projects, this seems to have been all one entire project. And these chambers that are underneath the Giza Plateau could have something to do with the functionality of these pyramids and how they operate in whatever that machine might have been.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you look at the scans that came forward. To me, looked very almost industrial looking. And I mean, I don't know too much about archaeology and the pyramid. I mean, I am not pretending to know much about this, but when I first saw it, that was one of the first things that struck me, was that it looks almost like an industrial complex. It didn't look livable to me. I don't know. I don't know how else to explain that. It was just the shape of what was coming forward, I guess. So when people came up with the notion that this was some sort of machine, some sort of generator, it didn't surprise me, and maybe it should have, but for some reason it didn't surprise me. I mean, this is so massive. This is going to at least rewrite our understanding of Egypt, if not rewrite our understanding of our own history. But how is this going to change our understanding of the construction of and the function of this? What does this mean for the history books?
Yeah, I mean, it really does rewrite the history books. long maintained this narrative of how old antiquity was supposed to be.
Sure.
And in fact, when they were redating the Sphinx, you had a lot of those archaeologists at the time saying things like, well, we don't have anything that's as old as what you're proposing, a monument like that. And, years later, oh, we unearthed Göbekli Tepe. Oops, we were wrong.
Right.
So there are these structures that are that old and possibly even older. You look at Gurun Padang and that structure there. And, Danny Hillman, the archaeologist or the geologist working on that, he's pulling up material out of there that he's saying is like 25,000 years old. And, the traditional archaeologists are like, no, we don't have monuments that are that old. And it's like, stop for a second with, I understand what you read in books, sometimes you have to understand that, what was written before was what we previously knew. And there's always more information coming out. It doesn't mean that those guys were wrong. And, those in our field kind of harp on traditional archaeologists. And the thing is they've done a lot of work. They've done a lot of good work, but I think a lot of them kind of get stuck into, well, this is what we figured out, and this is the way it has to stay, rather than realizing they're a stepping stone along the way. Just like my work, the portals to the stars back here, I have a lot of great information in it, but I expect 20 years from now it's going to be outdated. And I'm fine with that. I always point to Graham Hancock, the differences between Fingerprints of the Gods in 1995 and Magicians of the Gods in 2015. He had a lot of theories within there that were different between the two. And people asked him, well, why is this so different? What happened along the way? And he just said, look, I learned things over 20 years, and so I had to change my mind on a few things. And so Yeah, I think, unfortunately, traditional archaeology gets stuck in their narrative, and everything that they find has to fit it with, forgetting that you need to be open-minded and realize that the work that we're doing now is just a stepping stone for future generations.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, we see it in parapsychology all the time as well, where people are stuck in a mindset because it's just what they've been told or what they've been taught for so long. And then when you begin to challenge it with new evidence, instead of seeing it as this opportunity that can grow and you can learn from, it becomes almost a personal attack where it's like, well, what do you mean you're saying I'm wrong? Right. And I love your analogy of it being a stepping stone, because that's how science works. It's a stepping stone. Every single time we learn something new. And I mean, we know that this world is expanding constantly. The universe is expanding constantly. So we're not going to get it done. We're not going to.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah.
We're not. I mean, there's always going to be something. And it's interesting how people take this information. I think it was Dr. Dean Radin at one point that had said, they immediately, the way it kind of works is that the scientists think that it's wrong, it's a conspiracy theory, and then they start to become a little bit more neutral in it, and then suddenly it's the greatest idea they've ever heard. And by the way, it was probably theirs too. So.
Yeah, and there's the quote that I've heard several times before that, our science today was the pseudoscience of yesterday. So when people start saying,
Absolutely.
well, it's pseudoscience, it's like, yeah, okay, we'll give it 50 years. It'll be science, eventually. So, and I imagine, again, not to harp on, archaeologists, because I imagine many of them, when they started in the field, wanted to be like Indiana Jones. They wanted to go out there, have adventures, discover things and all that. And I'm sure many of them did. But somewhere along the way, they became stuck and just staunch in this specific viewpoint. We got to keep this narrative going, and that's it. And I understand some of it has to do with grant money. If they go too far off the beaten path, they're going to lose their grant money. Or they've written a bunch of books and they don't want to lose out on whatever sales, or, there's a pride issue where, it's their life's work and they don't want what they've been doing for the last 40 years to be considered nothing. And that's where it's like, I think you just need to change your perspective. What the work that you did wasn't nothing. It was just a stepping stone to the next thing. So guess what? put on your Indiana Jones hat, dive back into it, and go ahead and write another book.
Yeah. Yeah. Join in on the next adventure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because this really is, I mean, you can't get more Indiana Jones than what's going on here. Like,
exactly.
You really can't. This is it. This is the pinnacle of the whole thing. So, yeah, I guess the next big question with this is sort of the for lack of a better word, the supernatural side to this. And Egypt for a long time has been considered just a hot spot for strange phenomenon, things going on. Can we talk a little bit about that? Maybe some of what you might have experienced on your tours over there, because I know there's there's some really fascinating stuff that has really not been explained going on with these pyramids.
Yeah, the pyramids, I mean, are a real palpable energy. With our tour, the Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour, we get 2 hours, just our group inside the Great Pyramid. The whole thing's opened up to us, which is absolutely wonderful. And yeah, people have done meditations in there. They've done breath work, a lot of different things to feel into that energy that's within there. And you can really, really feel it. So when, they talk about the energy that's being drawn from the earth and storing it within the chambers, well, we're in the chambers.
Yeah.
And it's really, really amazing. And people have talked about having profound experiences within there. And I have felt the energy. I haven't, because I'm always running around, trying to get my video. It's different
when you're working the group.
Working the group. Well, and that's part of it too, is, so we have our tour guide, Mohammed, and then there's me, who's kind of like the special guest, and we kind of like tag team on a lot of the different information. So we'll do like a little tour through each chamber, and then we let the group have at it. So there's a element of working there, and I'll have my camera out too, and I'll be getting footage and photos and doing things for my own work. But in those moments where it's finally okay, let me take a breath, and it's like, oh yeah, I can feel that. And a lot of areas around Egypt are like that. It's so just energetic. Giza Plateau is one of those where you have two telluric currents or ley lines that cross each other there and create a more energetic spot. And those lines crisscross all through Egypt. So when you go down to some of those different temples and things like that, there's one there, Elephantine Island. Elephantine Island it's down there near Aswan, which you have all that Aswan rose granite. And this is basically... But the island is made out of the rose granite right in the middle of the Nile River. And underneath the Temple of Khnum is an older temple, but it's basically a cave that's under this temple, under the newer one. And if you subscribe to the idea that the Ark of the Covenant made its way down to Ethiopia, it is within this chamber that the Ark of the Covenant was supposed to have spent about 400 years. And usually it's off limits. We were afforded a special opportunity last year to actually be able to go inside of that chamber. And what was really, really interesting is nobody said anything about, you need to be quiet and all that sort of. Everybody went in and just, everything was so still. Everybody just had that feeling of reverence for the location without anybody having to say, this is the way you need to act there. It was just, you could feel this was a really, really special place. The energy was just palpable there. And
my God, I can only imagine. I mean, I've not been, but just hearing you talk about it, you can sense that. And I think these locations, to me, there is no doubt in my mind that the people that built this and lived there knew this. I've had over the years, I've had the privilege of working with a lot of indigenous people and cultures. And that's the one thing that I found throughout, is that oftentimes these sites get built upon places that they know are special, that there's something about them. And I think in the West, we screw that up. We think that it's like, oh, this special place is what's causing the activity. And that's not what I found at all. It's that something is there originally. and they know about it because they're in tune with it. They're not dismissing stuff like we dismiss stuff now because, oh, it must be silly. They know about this. And do you get that feeling with the Egyptians as well?
Yeah, and we find that, we find that all throughout the world. I cover it in a lot of different locations in Portals to the Stars.
Yeah.
Whether it's, in the American Southwest, a lot of the stone circles, of course, they're in Egypt, where, the ancients knew this is where the power was. They had different means and methods. And I know a lot of modern science, kind of scoffs at it, but, dowsing rods and pendulums. And
right.
It's interesting because the Dragon Project in the 70s and 80s, you had scientists that were working on this project, going to the different stone circles and testing the electromagnetism, because there is something palpable to that. And, they called it the Dragon Project, which, was a reference back to Chinese geomancy. They would call, what we call the ley lines of the solar currents, they'd call them dragon lines. They were the earth energy. And, the ancient symbol for energy was the snake or the serpent or the dragon. And they brought in some experienced dowsers at these sites. And the scientists, were like, I don't understand how it works. But sure enough, it is working, where they are finding, these energy currents with these rods. It lines up right up with everything that we've been testing and experimenting with. So, that was the methodology that the ancients used. And so they would build their ancient sites of power on there, whether it was stone circles or other things. And when other cultures came in, and, booted out the, whether it was the Druids or whomever, they would build, their churches, cathedrals, and other things on top of those ancient sites of powers. Because even though it's like, well, we have a different belief system, but there's energy here. They knew the energy was here. So,
yeah, they knew. That's just. I think people innately can feel this stuff if you're just willing to be still and acknowledge that there's something there. I know I used to do these walking classrooms. Well, I still do my walking classrooms, but there was one area in Edmonton that I used to take people to, and what was so neat about this, it was a meditation labyrinth. And it was used by a lot of Tai Chi practitioners and just lots of people in this very artsy neighborhood. And but it was used repeatedly over and over again by people just, finding their space, projecting the energy and whatnot. And the one thing I would do is I'd have my group take a pair of dowsing rods and send them around the labyrinth with their eyes closed. I said, you're not allowed to open your eyes. All you're allowed to do is follow where these rods are taking you, because your body is instinctively telling these rods where this energy is. And what was interesting was that most people could do it, but who had the most success was kids, because their heads weren't boggled up. They didn't have a pile of problems that they were bringing in with them. And the one little boy, and I'll never forget this, was able to go into this little stone maze, and he did the entire thing with his eyes closed, walking backwards.
Wow.
Using nothing but the dowsing rods to guide him. So he just completely in tune with what was
great.
going on. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
It's so cool. So it doesn't surprise me at all. So the one video that I saw you post recently, which I really loved, was pointing out, I believe it was some hieroglyphics talking about the as above, so below.
Yeah.
And so that was very interesting. If you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Ancient Hermeticism has been around pretty much forever. And, this is something that we find, of course, all the way back in ancient Egypt as well. So that was the tomb of Ramses 5 and 6. And it's a really, really interesting tomb. It's one of the most ornate. It's absolutely beautiful. If you have usually with our tour, we'll have a choice of, do you want to go see King Tut's tomb, or do you want to go see Ramses 5-6? The problem with Tut's tomb is, even though it's the most famous because it was King Tut, it's really, really small, and there's not a lot to see. But Ramses 5-6 is just so beautiful and ornate, and all these wonderful depictions of the sky. So when you get down there into the actual sarcophagus chamber, and you look at the ceiling, it's a depiction of Nut, who is basically the goddess of the sky. But she's shown in mirror image. So Nut of the day, Nut of the night is what they are looking at here. But the way that it is portrayed, you see that ancient hermetic principle of as above, so below, with duality there. And on the wall on the right-hand side, you're looking at the hieroglyphs and the artwork over there, they're essentially showing the same thing, that the depiction that they have above their heads, the circle, I can't remember all the symbols that are within it, is the same as what's at their feet, but what's on down there at the feet is flipped, a mirror image. So again, that whole duality, as above, so below. So through their artwork, they're talking about these ancient hermetic principles, and with the ancient Egyptian belief system, they didn't believe in an afterlife the way that we believe in it. They believe that this was just, death was just a part of the life's journey to go on to the next world, but it's not like heaven, hell, that sort of
Right.
stuff. It's just another phase of the whole thing. And those the earth here is reflective of the heavens above. So when you passed here, you went on to the constellation of Orion. And what's fascinating about this is the kings would become a new star. Well, up there in the constellation of Orion, part of it is the Orion Nebula, which is a huge star generator. Which, how did the ancient Egyptians know about that? So there's a lot of fascinating symbolism, all throughout ancient Egypt. And you got the Ouroboros, our first alchemical symbol, which is the symbol of recycle and renewal. And we find that in relationship to life. The renewal of the life of whether it's the king or a person or whomever, a renewal of the earth, and also a renewal of the universe. So the iconography throughout ancient Egypt is amazing.
It's so fascinating. And like what got me about that particular one was the fact that here we are seeing the as above, so below actually mirrored a little bit within these new scans coming out, where you've got the pyramid above, and then beneath it's something like actually manifest, like not just something that's, this non-physical idea, but here it is. Mm-hmm. Pictured within these scans,
right? Which
is also like just pretty amazing. So that begs the question, and in your opinion, how the heck did these people build this? How did they get down? Was it them, Mike? Was it them, or did they have help? What the heck is going on here?
That'd be a lot of chiseling. Could you imagine that? Just sitting there with a little chisel?
I cannot, and that's why I'm asking. What's your thought on this? Because
and even with
wild.
like the Great Pyramid, where they try to say, Khufu had that commission for his death. It's like, well, that's for that to have been done in 25 years. Just doing the math on that, the number of people that would have to be working on it round clock,
crazy.
You'd be, what was it? Would have to produce a block for the Great Pyramid, bring it to there, have it set in place perfectly, all this like 1 per minute or something, something crazy like that. So cutting it, smoothing it, polishing it, all that, moving it, placing it, it's insane. So I don't think it was the dynastic Egyptians who built that. I don't believe the dynastic Egyptians built those chambers. I don't believe they built those 3 main pyramids on the Giza Plateau, nor the ones like the Red Pyramid and the Benton Pyramid, the huge, massive ones. I don't think they built them. And I understand that there's a sense of pride here with Egypt and like the Egyptian Antiquities Authority. They don't want that narrative to change because there's a sense of pride. These are ours.
Sure.
We built these. And I'll say, I think The Egyptians did, but not the Egyptians as we know them, not as the dynastic Egyptians. I think it was a civilization beforehand that was there in Egypt, which we still could call Egyptians. And I mean, really, the thing is that Egyptians didn't exist during dynastic Egypt anyway, because the word Egypt comes from, it's a Greek word. When the Greeks came in, they changed all the words. Right. So that, yeah, the ancient Egyptians never called themselves Egyptians. But so, yeah, if you want to call it the Atlantean culture, which did spread out through that area, and even Atlantis is a Greek word, not Egyptian. It was the homeland of the primeval ones, not Atlantis, at least according to the Egyptians. So, it could have been those predecessors that later on, after the last cataclysm, would have become the Egyptians. So it could have been them, because you look at, here's the way that I like to contrast this, is when you look at those huge, large pyramids, no bodies were ever found within them. There's no hieroglyphs inside, and yeah, in the in the Great Pyramid, if you go into the small little chambers that are above the king's chamber, they have found like a painted cartouche of Khufu. That's how I got attributed to Khufu. And there's a lot of people believe this, and it's called a conspiracy theory, but a lot of people do believe this, even a lot of mainstream people. So back in the 1800s, when Howard Weiss was going through the pyramids, he was told, he needed to figure out who built these and when. And because there's nothing within the pyramids to say this is who built them and when, a lot of people believe he painted it on there to give attribution to somebody. Oh yeah, there, I found it. So, but in any case, yeah, no hieroglyphs or anything like that. And also, these huge pyramids are still fully intact. Yeah, they've had the casing stones removed because you had, the people of the area 1,000 years ago or whatever wanted some construction material. Oh, just take it off of there.
Right.
It's a shame.
God.
But they're still intact. Now, you look at the ones that I'll say were built by the dynastic Egyptians. They are crumbling and falling apart. A lot of them were made of mud brick. They might have had some limestone involved somehow, but they were made of mud brick. You're not finding the beautiful, granite blocks, huge granite blocks, or like inside the king's chamber there, in the Great Pyramid. You just don't find that in these. So they're crumbling, they're falling apart. You go inside. Yes, there have been bodies found in these. They're much smaller pyramids too. You have found some bodies found in those, and they're covered in hieroglyphs inside, just like you find throughout the dynastic Egyptian temples and all this.
Sure. So
I think it's one of those where as civilization was starting to regrow, they had these huge pyramids sitting there, and the dynastic Egyptians are like, those are awesome.
Yeah.
I want to build that. I would love to be buried in something like that. But they didn't have the know-how and the tools and what they needed to make it that big. But hey, we can still make some pretty good sized ones, and we'll make these smaller ones. We'll get buried in. We'll put all of our hieroglyphs on the inside, that sort of thing. So, because you can really tell a difference between the two different styles.
And that's so significant. I mean, because I think that's the big question with these, especially with these scans coming out that everybody's got, is, I mean, there's always been that controversy about, okay, who built the pyramids, and was it the people? Was it aliens? What's going on?
I don't think it was aliens.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's just, but now I think this has put a new spin on whoever did build these, the technology that they would have had to have to do it. And I think it's drawing that line, like you say, even stronger through the different cultures that have been there. And I find that really fascinating. And I think that's what, for everybody listening, that's what you need to take away from this, is that not only is this going to rewrite what we know about the people of Egypt, about who we were as people just across the globe, but also who was there before that there's something there, there's somebody there, and it's not some sort of conspiracy theory. There's something going on. So where are people now with all the stuff that's they're discovering, what's next for this team?
Yeah, well, they're continuing to scan the plateaus. So there'll be more, and we've already seen it. A few months after Khafre, we've seen things come out with Menkaure. So they're continuing to scan the plateaus for other chambers and caches and things like that, see what else is there. And they'll continue to do that for a while. And they are working on publishing some papers on this. So I'm not sure why they released the information before publishing, and that's, I can't answer that.
Do you think it hurt them?
Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
I think it hurt them in the scientific community, because the scientific community likes to see, things
they
published.
want their white paper.
They want their white paper.
Yeah.
And the question then becomes, and it could be, what spooked them was what happened with Danny Hillman at Good and Padang, was that he published. And because of all of the immense pressure from the traditional scientific community, the publication retracted it. So not Danny Hillman himself, not the geologist, which a lot of people confused. It wasn't the geologist going back and saying, "Oh yeah, I was wrong." No, it was the publication that got so much pressure from the scientific community that they pulled the paper. So I think, part of it might have been that, where it's like, we could try to publish. Is anybody going to take it right now? For one, because it's so controversial. Do they want that pressure to happen? So it does hurt them in the fact that, there isn't a published paper right now. But I think just to alleviate all of that garbage, it helped them, and it got the information out there quicker.
100%.
And now we're able to take a look at it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. What I've found really interesting since this has come out has been the lack of coverage that's actually happened. Like, I'm not sure. I mean, we don't get a lot of U.S. news because of our government here, but what's interesting is that I know in Canada, there's been next to nothing. Like, the legacy media here has been pretty much silent. And I mean, maybe somebody out there can correct me if I'm wrong. I have not seen one thing about this on our international news networks that has been anything more than maybe, and if there has been something out there, it's been a blip in the broadcast. And I find that not only incredibly strange, but disturbing, because it's like, this is possibly the discovery of the century, and it's nowhere.
Nobody's, where I've found it covered is, so what was it? Daily Mail, it's a UK affiliate, New York Post. So it's more kind of like tabloid-esque type of outlets. Greek Reporter has covered it, and Jerusalem Times. So it's like a lot of international affiliates, but some of the more, and I like that term, legacy news outlets. They really aren't covering it at all.
Nothing. And it's really blown my mind, because when this first broke, I thought, okay, that's it. This is all we're going to be seeing for a while, because as it should be. This should be headlines every single evening. Okay, what's next? What's going on in nothing. And I mean, as I say, Canada has got a massive censorship problem, but this I really expected to see plastered everywhere, and there's just not a damn thing. So I guess we'll see where it goes. Where would you recommend people to go to follow this story as it's coming out?
So the Khafre Project has their own Facebook page now. So that was another issue that cropped up when this news broke, is that they didn't really have a centralized place to go. Nicole Ciccolo, her YouTube was a good resource, except it's all in Italian. So because she had all kinds of information on there, but the English speaking world couldn't really do a lot with that unless you knew Italian.
Sure.
So they do have a English Facebook page now, so they've come out with that since then, and so there are a lot of updates and things like that. Not all of the guys on the team are multimedia or social media savvy. Armando May he's on his Facebook a lot, posting things. Trevor Grassi, who's the one that came on the tour with me and has been associated with them, not specifically on the team, but associated with them. He's been posting a lot. These guys are doing, some different events and things coming up here. So I would definitely take a look into those events like Cosmic Summit. I know that they're going to be at and things like this. So yeah, I would say, follow those places and resources. And of course, I'm going to keep posting stuff. I was just talking with Trevor earlier today, looking to get him back on the show. And he's got a lot of stuff coming up here. Like he's going to be interviewed by Cliff Dunning on Earth Ancients, which is a great podcast. So so there's a number of different places you can check into.
That's great. And we'll put those in the show notes and stuff like that as well, just to make sure everybody's can access that, because I don't think this is over. I think they're going to find more. I think this is going to continue to become a larger story. And I think without people like you and the project pages and things like that, people wouldn't have a clue.
Right.
They wouldn't have a clue.
And hey, I'll throw out there too, if you want to get boots on the ground with this, Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour coming up here in November. I mean, we already had, it's wild. We already had on our itinerary the Egyptian labyrinth at Hawara, and then all of this news came out on it. And because just like talking with Trevor and some others, it was like, yeah, nobody does Hawara. That's great that you have it on the itinerary. And then all of a sudden, boom, here it is, all this news coming out about that. So it's like, okay, well, you want to get boots on the ground at the labyrinth? There you go. Of course, we always go to the Giza Plateau and get in the pyramids. So yeah.
Please tell everybody a little bit about the tours. How can they book on with you? Because I think it's such an experience. And tell people where they can get Portals to the Stars, because it is such a great book. Brag about yourself.
Both my website. So my website for Portals to the Stars and my other books. I mean, it's going to link you to Amazon, but you can also get it through like Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, all those places too. The tour, if you go to my events and tours page on my website, I'll have the link there for the Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour, and then the sign up for it is right there. And of course, I always update on my social media like, hey, join us for the tour. It's kind of like my VA schedules that in there to get out there to remind people, because a lot of people have been interested, but then I'd love to do that, and then they kind of forget, and it's like, I got to remind you. So, but it's a great tour. Like I said, we get 2 hours just ourselves in the Great Pyramid of Giza. There's a 4-day Nile cruise that's involved, which is amazing. And with Mohammed, he's been running tours there for over 25 years. He knows everybody. We get a lot of special access to rooms and chambers that the public doesn't get. So yeah, it's a wonderful tour.
Yeah, you guys, if you have the time and the availability, go on this thing. That's just phenomenal to do. And I mean, you are giving people a gift by doing this, because this is literally getting on the groundwork of things that they're going to be telling their kids when they're rewriting the history books. I mean, that's what we're looking at.
I was there when it was happening.
Yeah,
and people do wonder about like the safety and all that, and I will say it is absolutely safe journey. I mean, from the moment you step off the plane, you're in the tour bubble, because we have Muhammad's guy, greets you right there as you're coming off the plane, and it walks you through everything between like getting the visa stamped, the customs, getting the luggage, all that, puts you right onto the tour bus. Tour bus takes you to the hotel. You get another team member that greets you right there at the hotel, checks you in. So you're like in that tour bubble. It's wonderful the way it's set up.
You guys have figured it out. You guys have absolutely figured it. Well, Mike, thank you so much for educating me and everybody else, because I definitely needed this breakdown, and I feel like I'm at least 10 points smarter since talking to you. So thank you so much. We're going to put everything on the website where they can sign up for the tours, making sure that we'll have that all in the show notes. So thank you so much.
No, thank you, Morgan. Again, it's always a wonderful conversation with you.
Hit pause on whatever you're listening to and hit play on your next adventure. Stay 2 nights and get a $50 Best Western gift card. Life's a trip. Make the most of it at Best Western. Visit bestwestern.com for complete terms and conditions.
When you wanna grow your list size, pop up like it's hot, pop up like it's hot, pop Pop up like it's hot. And when you gotta boost your revenue, pop up like it's hot. Hey, pop up like it's hot. Pop up like it's hot. Pick your favorite template. You can tailor to your brand. They're MailChimp-erific. You're gonna be a fan. MailChimp your marketing with our new customizable pop-ups.
Yep, the beauty drunk drawer. Full of those used once, why did I buy this? That was a waste products. Stop adding to it. Shop at Sephora and break the cycle. Sephora only carries the hot, high-quality products you'll never regret buying and brands you can only find at Sephora, like Kayali, Makeup by Mario, Kerastase, and M Beauty. Shop the hottest beauty with no regrets, only at Sephora.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Well, what a fascinating discussion, you guys. Mike Ricksecker is absolutely one of the foremost experts in any of this stuff. I mean, he's got boots on the ground. What more can you ask? And I'm telling you, I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions after this conversation. I know I have a ton of questions that still need to be properly answered, and I don't know if right now that they can be. So let's talk about this a little bit. Here we've got revolutionary research that's going on, and I brought it up at the end of our conversation, which is this underlying factor of the media not covering what's going on. And I want to talk about this a little bit because I think this is something that really needs to be looked at and examined in terms of what we're consuming and taking in as a population in regards to what's going on in the world. We really do have a problem with media bias, right? And I think this is something that as we go further into this subject in particular, and I mean, it could be really multiple subjects that are going on in the world right now, but let's talk about this one specifically because this is an actual life-changing, history-altering, we will not look at ourselves the same way again when this is done type of study and discovery. And I think this is just one of those things that really is a wake-up call as to what the media is prioritizing going into just trying to get headlines, what's selling, what's not selling. And I mean, and I'll tell you guys, I've been in the media for a very long time, going on almost 25 years. And I think at this point, and I really loathe to say this, but the truth has very little to do with what they're reporting on as in terms of what they are prioritizing to deliver to the general public. And that's concerning, especially when we start to look at a situation like this where you have such an absolutely mind-blowing discovery that is back page news, and it's set to change our education, our kids' education, the history books, what's featured in museums. I mean, this is unbelievable, and nothing is being said about it. What is going on, right? What is going on? And this is, to me, this is just something that's so glaring. So what's going to be going on now for the future? What do you guys think this is? I'm really, really curious to know what you guys think, because I mean, I definitely have got some big questions. I don't even know if I can come up with an answer. Please join the Supernatural Circumstances after the show on Facebook, if you have Facebook, and come and weigh in on this, because I am really curious to see what you guys all think. I know I've got a super smart audience out there. I'd love to hear your opinions on this. So here we've got, I think coming up, we've got to see peer review and verification from the scientific community, independent verification of radar data, probably further geophysical surveys. I mean, there's so much that's coming up. So the future of research into these pyramid structures really, I think, hinges on independent verification, very cautious excavation, and beginning to open up scientific debate, which I think is going to be the most difficult part of this entire thing. can we get the scientific community to put down, as Mike was saying, put down their ideas as to what this is, and to be able to bring this to the table and lay it out there. Just, what is this? How do we rethink this? Which takes a very long time, believe me, in the scientific community. So, I mean, we've got a long way to go here. I really, really hope that you guys got something out of this and enjoyed this and feel a little bit more educated on this. Please go check out Mike Ricksecker's books. You see him on television all the time on The Unexplained with William Shatner, as well as Ancient Aliens and shows like that. You can catch him everywhere. He is so unbelievably knowledgeable. He is one of my favorite people to have on. And his book, Portal to the Stars, addresses some of this stuff, which I think is absolutely fascinating. So please go and check it out. This has been, man, what a journey we are on, guys. This is the, I don't know, the next step. And you know, we can talk about, there's of course rumor going around about disclosure in 2027, the extraterrestrial involvement. I mean, this is endless, really. It's really, really endless. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys as to your input about all of this craziness. And thank you for joining us on this eerie expedition, dear listeners. And remember, there is no line between the natural and the supernatural. All is consciousness. Until next time, stay curious, friends. Supernatural Circumstances is a co-production of Entity Seeker, Paranormal Research and Teachings, and The 20th Plane. This podcast is a part of the Curious Cast podcast network. You can find out more about me, Morgan Knudsen, and book me for live appearances at entityseeker.ca. You can also email the show at supernaturalcircumstances.com.
Big Brother is back.
Let's freaking go!
This summer, the game gets hotter, the alliances get trickier, and the blind sides, brutal.
Just a roller coaster of backstabbing and craziness.
New house guests, new twists, same epic drama.
Bro, I'm gunning for you. You're my #1 target.
Who can you trust when everyone's watching?
Game on, baby.
Big Brother. New season Thursday, July 10th on Global. Stream on Stack TV.